Hello, my loves. Welcome back to Kemba's World. In today's video that I have for you today, I have a story time video of my experience with being bullied and all things surrounding that. We're going to go into me getting bullied by both peers and family members and everything, and how my mental health diagnosis and everything and more. So, without further ado, let's just get on straight on into the video. And and so, like I said, this is particularly my bullying story, right? So, with this bullying, so when I first initially got started getting bullied, I the it first started out when I was 5 years old. It went from when I was five to when I would say 14 at the latest. So like I was bullied all throughout, elementary school. I was bullied throughout all of throughout all of middle school. I mean, I was bullied my freshman year of high school, and then sophomore, junior, and senior year, I wasn't bullied. But that's like besides the point. We're talking about my experience with bullying. So like I don't know how it started. And like to me it's like it baffles me so much and whatnot. Like how it started, because I don't know what particularly how it started, because like I was like the most friendliest little kid according to my mother and my dad. So according to my parents, I was like the friendliest little kid. Like I would just go up when I was like when I was like a little girl. I would go up to a child and instantly start talking to them and just start yapping. I would just start yapping. I would just start yapping and yapping and whatnot. So with that being said, I don't know particularly why I started getting treated differently from my peers, because at first it was it just was like the comments of the nitpicking of how I looked and whatnot, and then the occasional when we were at recess and whatnot of pushing me down, ignoring me, being the last pick for any game and whatnot. So I I just didn't just at the time, I thought it was weird, because I went from having a lot of friends to having basically nobody, because I was basically isolated out in a way. You know what I'm saying? I was basically isolated in a way. I don't know how to exactly put it into words and whatnot, but I was basically isolated out and whatnot. So I was isolated out of my peers. So kindergarten was rough. First through fourth grade was rough. Because kids will treat me differently. They will I would hear the whispers behind my back, because they started I did a story time of how my bullies tried to get me suspended because they thought I had lice in my hair. The first ever, they didn't try to get me suspended for this, but they did thought that they did start a rumor that I live next door to the school, which I did not. I was not, I was in like the general, like, vicinity of the school. Like it was like within like walking distance from my house, even though I was still put on the bus, which I find fucking stupid and whatnot. Even my mom finds it stupid. I was in walking distance of it, but they thought, they like legitimately, like, I don't even know who started the rumor. Like somebody started the rumor of like, oh yeah, I live next door to the school, or and if it wasn't next door to school, or like, oh, I live in like the school's like basement and whatnot. And I'm like thinking like, why the fuck would you ever say that? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, why the fuck would you ever say that type of shit, you know? So I was like deeply saddened that, of course, like I lost, like, all of my friends and whatnot. So like I still had friends in I still had friends, but it wasn't as big as it was when I before, like, the bullying started. So like elementary school was basically like, me like getting like, isolated from everybody, and whatnot. And then middle school is like where everything, like, truly began and like started and whatnot, because the minute that I entered fifth grade, um I saw like a huge, like, drastic change in shift of like, everything and whatnot. And you're probably thinking like, well, what was the shift? So when I entered middle school, I already had like, my chest size and whatnot, because like how with, I'm not saying all women, so don't be in my comments saying like, oh well, I'm not saying all women or all girls, but like how with like some girls, they have like, when they start growing in chest size, they go directly from, they start with like, trainer bras. I never got the chance to like, start with like, trainer bras. I went from having no girls to having my girls and like, I'm extremely thankful for that, but at the same time it was like kind of odd, because like I was like the biggest chest size out of the whole entire female student body of my class, and I was like, well, this is like, unfortunate events and whatnot, because like because they would buy me my bullies would end up trying to like, buy me bras, and these bras would fit them, but it wouldn't fit me, because mind you, these bras will be for like, a B C cup, and I was sitting here with double D's and double D's going into triple D's and whatnot, because fun fact, I never had like a bra size and whatnot. Like I was always been told like, hey, you're a double D between a triple D, it just depends on the bra and like how it's made and whatnot. So they try to buy me some like, bras from like Walmart, and it never fit me, because it would fit them but it wouldn't fit me. So that was like an experience. I legitimately wanted to like, go hide in my room and just like go cry in a corner every time that they would do that, because it wasn't like an every like, once in a while type thing. It was a everyday type thing, where like they would like, go to Walmart, or go to whatever store in general, and just buy me bras. Like I didn't even ask them for bras. Like they would just buy me bras and whatnot, and they would just, like I said, buy me bras and just give them to me, and I would just like accept them and whatnot. So that was that. And then during this time, this is when I was like, actively like, because I wear leg braces and whatnot. This is when I was actively like, wearing my leg braces around school, and even then they avoided me because they thought that there was something wrong with me, and that I was just a mutation of something. I can't, because they call me a mutation of like several things, like a mutation of like somebody crippled, and then like a robot or like some shit like that. So that was, not fun. So with that being said, um that was like, all of like 5th and 6th grade. um and of course, like I said, if you want to, guys going to check it out, like I said, then like in 6th grade, like, the lice incident happened. If you guys want to go listen to that, full story time is up. I will link it down below and in the cards if I remember. But the but yeah, so like, so the lice incident, so after like the lice incident, like everything happened. 7th grade happened, and then like I wasn't like, trying to force myself to like, fit in, but like I was just there, like kid, like if people sat towards me at lunch, they would like, take their trays of food and like turn their body away from me to eat, like, and whatnot. And it's like, girl, we all got the same food. I'm not going to take your food and whatnot. Like, if I wanted extra food, I would just like, wait until I get home and whatnot. And mind you, this is like during like the era. I feel like this is like during the era of like when Bath and Body Works was really popping, because everybody had like the Bath and Body Works lotion, and all the girls in my class would like, have the Bath and Body Works lotion and whatnot, and just like, pour it on their hairs, and like, just do like the classic, thing, and just be like obnoxious with it and whatnot. So 7th grade was like an interesting time period, because a lot of shit also happened in 7th grade, like, and then like 7th grade was also the time period of like where I was threatened to like, get suspended because I had a crush on a boy in my class, and he ended up telling the dean because it made him uncomfortable. And the dean told me, he was like, oh yeah, if you continue like feeling this way, then we're going to have to like, temporarily like do a in-school suspension and whatnot. And I'm like, you're going to suspend me for having a crush on a boy when it's completely fucking normal. Like, okay, like the guy that didn't find me like, attractive or cute or whatever, but it's like completely like, normal for like, like for like people to have crushes on people. But to suspend somebody for doing something completely, fucking normal, was just wild behavior for me. And like during this time, like the bullies were like, just like, nitpicking me on everything from like, my, again, to my boobs, but like it was most importantly for my hair. Because my hair was, I only had two, and again, I mentioned this in like the lice veil. um I basically had a two I basically had two hairstyles growing up. One was kinky twist, the braiding style, and then the other one was Shirley Temple curls. My dad made sure to like make sure that my hair was always constantly done, and like I am grateful that he always made sure that my hair was constantly done. But it kind of like, made it worse for me for him to like say to keep for me to get my hair done, because um it only because he kept me in like the two same styles. So like When my braids were like done, it was the kinky. When my braids were done, it was the Shirley Temple curls, and when my Shirley Temple curls were done, then it was like the kinky twist, and then and whatnot. So like it wasn't like, you know, like I didn't have like, any other like, hairstyles. Like, I didn't have like, the body waves, the silk presses, the and whatnot in school, like how like a lot of other of my female peers had, because again my dad was just keeping me in kinky twists and Shirley Temple curls. And you're probably asking yourself, like, okay, he kept you in these styles, so why didn't you ever ask him to, like, saying like, hey dad, can you, and like show them a picture, like be like, hey dad, would you rather we try this style instead of just doing this style constantly? And like me, we tried. And by we tried, I tried saying that to him. My mother tried saying that to him. My godmother, aka his niece, tried saying that to him. And he would not budge. He kept me in the same two styles. And that was that. Like, that was just that. And whatnot. Like, we couldn't do anything because we would ask him, like, saying, like, hey, can we try this? Can we try that? And whatnot. And like and I feel like even though like I was being bullied by my peers, I was also being bullied by being bullied by like my dad most of all. And like he doesn't know this, how I feel this way, and I don't think I will ever tell him and whatnot, because again, like I have a whole entire story time on my relationship with my father. That I believe that video is like my longest video on this channel. It's like an hour or something long and whatnot. But like me and my dad's relationship was always like, rocky to begin with, because at the time of me getting bullied, like I was also going through like, the DCF cases with my dad, because my dad was just doing some like, fuck shit and whatnot. And like my dad was basically contributing into like the bullies, because they will always like, he will always keep me in the same style, and then like he will always just like, feed into their behavior, because he will be like, oh well, you just need to like, befriend them and just like, ask them how they're doing, and just like, he was just basically saying like, oh, you just need to change like your whole entire personality and like your outlook on them, so that way they can like you. And I'm like thinking in the back of my head, like, I'm not the problem, daddy. I'm not the problem. The bullies are the problem. I'm personally not the problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not the problem. Like, me getting bullied is not me like saying like, oh, like I'm not funny, I'm not cute, or anything else of that nature. Like, I'm being bullied because kids just want to be like, fucking assholes and whatnot. So it's just like he like legitimately committed did like fed into it, instead of being like, trying to like de-escalate the situation and whatnot, like my mom was trying to do. Because my mom truly, even though like I live with my mama truly saw what was going on with me and how badly it was affecting me. It was not only affecting me, it was affecting my mental health and whatnot. So not only was I getting bullied by by my peers in school, I was also getting bullied by my father by saying like, oh, you need to change this, you need to change that, you need to look like this, we need to put you in this hairstyle, we need to do that and whatnot. And I'm like, can you stop and whatnot? And like he would like try to, and then he was like, oh well, since they don't like this about you, we just need to keep you like looking like this. And he would always buy me like, neutral color stuff and whatnot, while my teammates were like, clothes were like more expressive and I looked like bland. And because like he always made me look like a donuts per se and whatnot. And I was like, ugh, okay. So like, even though like my father like kept me well kept, is that the terminology for that? Kept me well kept, because I don't know. I'm not gonna think too much about it. Kept me well done, kept me looking nice, whatever you want to call it. But you guys know what I'm like, trying to say. But he like, kept up with my appearance. But yeah, hair got into my mouth. Um, he kept me well. He kept me well. He kept me up. I will give him that. But at the same time, he kept me up. But at the same time, he kept me up. But at the same time, he was like, also tearing me down along with the bullies, because he was just like telling me a whole lot of negative things. He was showcasing negative behaviors, and like and like the abuse and whatnot that I would endure from him, the emotional and the mental abuse that I would adorn from him was like too much. So like there was a time where like in a point in my life where I was, you know, suicidal, because like I felt like I was just like, a worthless piece of thing, because like no, I couldn't like, keep friends around, and if they did, they like, eventually like moved away or whatnot. So like I was suicidal for like a brief period for my life. My last attempt was back in 2015, and originally this story time of me being bullied was supposed to be like, my journey with like, suicide. But I decided to do that video next September, when it's like, the 10-year anniversary of it. But this year it's just my history with bullying, because that was seventh grade. Like, and then like eighth grade was interesting, because I did have a new hairstyle in eighth grade, because only simply because I had um I forgot what it's called, but because I did this thing for my church where I had to like, take classes and whatnot. And I had to take classes like every Sunday for like, I think like for like an entire year. And then like I graduated, and then I had like this updo bun pony style on my head. If I can find a picture of it, I will insert it into the video and whatnot, but it should be somewhere on my Instagram and whatnot. But I had a lot of things done that in eighth grade year, and like I think like the highlight of my eighth grade year was me going to my first ever like, school dance, because that's when we had like an eighth grade dance, and I really loved my dress that year and whatnot. And like every time like I see pictures of me, every time I see pictures of me um in that dress, it like just generally just brings like a smile to my face and whatnot. But like outside of that, and outside like the little hairstyle, eighth grade was rough, because that's when like, people realize my disability. Because like all of elementary school, all of like, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, that's and whatnot, it was just basically my parents and whatnot. Like they didn't say anything about like my disability until like the eighth grade, because they would like, because like if you guys don't know, I when my mother was pregnant with me, I had a stroke so my entire left side of my body is shorter and weaker than my whole entire right side of my body. So, and it's not like like a very big difference, but like unless like you clearly like looking at my feet and like my hands, you would tell like, oh, my left hand is like smaller than my right and whatnot. But like they noticed my disability finally, and then they started like with the disability jokes and whatnot, and they was like, "Oh, well, you're never gonna get a boyfriend. You, if you do, he's just gonna stay with you for like the benefits and whatnot, and that you're never gonna find like true love. You're never gonna have kids and things of that nature." And they was like, "Oh, well," they was like, "Oh, you probably live in a dumpster. You probably work to help pay bills and whatnot." And I'm like thinking like, why are y'all saying this? Like, what did I do? Like, so badly to like, disturb to get all this like, negativity because if you remember earlier when I said like I was like the friendliest kid, I was the friendliest kid. Like I respected my peers, I respected like, adults and whatnot. So like I didn't know why this was happening to me. Like the only friends that I had were like the select few that I grew up with that I'm really close to this day, and all of the teachers because teachers loved me and whatnot. So it was just like a whole entire experience. And with like being bullied, I gained like a whole lot of trust issues because, mind you, and again I said this in like the lice hair video, mind you, I went to a predominantly black school, so this wasn't like, oh, I was getting bullied by like different like ethnicity different like groups of kids. This was me getting bullied by my own people, like people that look like me, that and whatnot was bullying me. And I think that like what broke my heart the most, because like it was just like people who look like me are the same ones that are like causing me pain and trust issues. So like I was like hesitant of like befriending um people that befriending people that look like me going into high school because of like my my experience and whatnot. And I thought that like everybody was like that, and I realized that now that that isn't true, and that it just, those people were just like like that. Those people were the ones that like nitpick me, gave me bras, underwear, you know made fun of me, started rumors, belittle me and whatnot, call me the R slur and whatnot, because they did call me the R slur because I was a special needs kid. And so they, once they found out that I was a special needs kid and I had like different homework and class assignment adjusted to me, to make me like understand like the material better, they was like, oh well, you are so R slur, so like you should just like just jump off a bridge and like kill yourself and what, and like things of that nature. So I was just like devastated, because like I always wanted, because like I always see like the posts on like social media of like of like people having like sleepovers with their friends, or like just hanging out with like at their friend's house. And I never really got, I never really got that opportunity to do that, because everybody was just like so mean to me and so heartless to me. And like, and like the only time that they wasn't like in the, and what is like so funny about this is that they was like this to in person, because I befriended like all like my peers on Facebook, but they wasn't like, they was only like this to me in person. They wasn't like this to me online. And I was like so glad that they wasn't like this to me online. And like, and you're probably thinking like, okay, you was bullied due to school. Like, did the school ever do anything? No, they didn't do not a damn thing about it. Like, my mom told them and whatnot, and my mom even threatened to take me out of school if they don't do something about it. And the school just did not care. Like, they, like, sided with like the bullies sometimes, and like and if they didn't side with the bullies, they would just like, turn and like look away and whatnot. So it's just like, and like with me being bullied severely, in my eyes, that's where like, all like, my mental health issues came from, because I suffer from like, PTSD, I suffer from anxiety, I suffer from depression and whatnot, because like, when and you probably think like PTSD and whatnot, that's like something for like, soldiers and whatnot. Like, you can gain PTSD and not served a day in your life in the military. Sorry to say. But like, my PTSD came from like, if I was like, if like it was like a school, if it was like school time, then like I would worry that my stress level will be like through the fucking roof, of like being of like being of being like so stressed out of like, what are they going to say now? Are they going to say the same shit? Like, what are they going to give me now? Oh, like, even though like I have like, the Shirley Temples and the kinky twist in my hair, like what they're going to say now about it, like, and whatnot. So it just like, stressed me out beyond belief, to the point where like, I wasn't like, eating and like drinking properly like I should have and whatnot. So it was just like, my bullying story was like, I would say like an interesting time of my life. Like, surely it's like, fucked up and tragic, but it happened. I lived through it. I survived it. I don't know how I survived it, honestly. I think I think No, I know how I survived it. I survived it by books, because that's when like, I was like an active bookworm. I used like, books to like escape my reality, and like, while like I was reading like, everything back. I was reading everything, so like I was lost in like the world of like, Harry Potter, Twilight, and when it was getting published, the Shadowhunters Chronicles as well. So like, I would use all those series to like, escape my anxiety and whatnot, to escape my anxiety, to escape my stress levels, to like give me a sense of like, relief, of like knowing that like, oh hey, like, yes, life is like cruel to you right now, but like, come into our world where you can forget your worries for a while and whatnot. So like, I really thank books for like, keeping me sane and keeping me grounded during this time, because without that, then I don't know where the fuck I will be right now. But yeah. So that concludes the story time on how I was bullied severely as like a child. If you have any questions about it, please leave them down below. I will be sure to answer them to the best of my abilities. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day or night wherever you may be in the world. Remember to drink your water, take your meds, practice self-care, and be a good human, because it's really not that hard to be a good human. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.